Okay, working on replacing the voltage stabilizer. So, question, why would you replace the voltage stabilizer? Well, this particular unit, this is the voltage stabilizer itself, controls your fuel gauge and your engine temperature gauge. And if you're getting weird readings and you're not sure why, this could be the reason why. So this happens to be a new unit that was rebuilt by a gentleman named Dave Connett, and I'll put his contact information at the bottom. He's allowed me to do that. He rebuilds these and rebuilds them better than anything you're going to get from Moss or any of the other, TRF or any of the other suppliers. If you read around on the forums, the ones that they provide they're not very good. Sometimes they only last a couple months before they fail. So we're going to do a couple tests before we replace this. And if you don't know where this is, it's attached to the back of the speedometer, which makes it a little bit difficult to get to. So we'll have to crawl under the dash and do that. But first, we're going to do a couple electrical tests. So let's do that first. Okay, so here's what I've done. So this is the temperature sender for the gauge, and this is the wire that would hook up to it. So I've unhooked the wire and hooked up the lead for my multimeter to that wire. So here's a multimeter. We have it set to read 12 volts, and we're going to hook the negative terminal up to the negative terminal on the battery and see what we get. This should fluctuate somewhere between 12 and 10 or 12 and 9. What the voltage regulator does is it takes the 12 volts from the battery and knocks it down to about 10 so that the gauges function correctly. So we'll probably see some movement in this, but it shouldn't be too much. Okay, so it's kind of jumping all over the place, going all the way down to 3 or 4. There was just a 2. So that's probably not correct. Next thing we can do is check the fuel sender on the back and see if we're getting something similar. So we're doing the same thing on the fuel sender. I've pulled the positive or the green wire off the sender and then hooked it up to the positive on the multimeter. We're on down here and we'll ground it and see what happens. So it's kind of all over the place as well. So we'll pull the voltage regulator off, we'll test that and see about replacing it. Well, we're going to replace it regardless, but we'll do it anyways. Okay, so speedometer's out. It's not all that difficult. If you've never done it before, if you look on the back, there's these like threaded posts. There's 2 nuts that you can undo by hand. You take those off, then just undo the speedometer cable, which you can also undo by hand. And then this thing will just slide out of the hole there. I did have to take a screwdriver and just loosen these trim plates here to get it out of the way because there just wasn't quite enough room to tilt it forward, and the voltage regulator was actually sticking on the top here. But anyways, quick job. So voltage regulator's out. This is the old one, and I've got it hooked up, and we're going to test it. Ironically, there's another YouTube channel called Midwest Motoring, which just did a really good video on this, far more in depth than I'm going to go. But so what I've done here is this voltage regulator is just grounded straight to the speedometer through the metal, so there's no actual grounding wire. So you hook your ground up to here, and then I've got it hooked to the negative on the battery. Then you hook up a positive alligator clip to the battery and hook that to the B side. I don't know if you can see that, of your old voltage regulator. And then what we're going to do is attach the negative from our multimeter to the battery right there. See if I can do this one-handed. And then I'm going to touch this to the instrument part and see what kind of readings we get. So here we go. Maybe. So again, the reason it's fluctuating is this voltage regulator is supposed to take 12 volts and convert it down to 10, and it does that by basically jumping around a contact inside there. So you can see it's all over the place. It really shouldn't be going down to 3 as far as I know, or 2.8 like you just saw right there, or 0.6. So which tells me this is bad. So let's hook up the new one and see what it does. Okay, so the new one's hooked up. So let's check what kind of readings we get with this one. Yeah, that's a lot more stable. So it's holding a steady 9.9. So Dave's built a hell of a machine here, or part. So let's get this hooked up. I just disconnected it there. And something I probably should have said earlier is why am I even bothering to do this? So my coolant temperature gauge has always been reading high lately, like really high. It used to sit down right in the 1/4 mark. So it used to read like right around down in there, but now it's sitting above where those two dots are, like at the 3/4 mark. And then my fuel gauge will not go above half. And I know there's more than half a tank in there. It's darn near close to full right now. So I'm guessing the voltage regulator is what the problem was. So we'll get that hooked back up. Hopefully that fixes the problem, and then we'll have to take it for a drive and go from there. So let me get all this hooked back up and then we'll recheck it. Okay, so the new voltage regulator is installed back in. Didn't take too long. I've got the temperature sender hooked back up. We're going to check voltage on it again. So we'll hook it up to negative battery here. And we're getting 9.9 steady, which was way different than what we were getting earlier. So let's check the fuel sender as well. Okay, so fuel sender's hooked back up. Let's see what we get for voltage on this. Again, a steady 9.9. So I think we solved the problem. Now let's go turn the ignition on and see what the fuel gauge does. So I misspoke just there that last minute. You have to have the ignition on to test any of this, but now let's turn it on. So ignition light's on. We'll see what she does. So it's slowly creeping up. And for the sake of brevity, I'll wait until this stops and then restart the video. And so it's measuring right at about a half tank. So let's check the fuel level and see if that's correct. Okay, so I checked the depth of the fuel tank and it's at half. So the gauge is reading correctly. I used my very scientific dowel rod method and stuck it in the gas tank. Measured the depth of the gas tank, then measured how high the gas was on the rod, and it was at half. So another cool thing that actually I found out that happened, my heater fan was not working, and now check this out. So that's good. The other position isn't working. I'll have to figure that out, but at least it's working now. So it's also fixed that problem. So anyways, if you think you need a new voltage regulator, highly recommend you look up the information at the bottom, get yourself a new one, and get yourself squared away and back on the road. Thanks for watching. See you later.